Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And good morning, folks. Welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, coming to you live from the center of the automotive universe, which happens to be a really nice studio inside. I say nice studio, all digital, soundproof. And just to prove that, today we have a crew that happens to be working in the shop. So there's a lot of noise making and hammering and those sorts of things going on outside. But for you and me and all of the Carthen Network team, we're going to have our own little private time today. 888 Car Clinic is the number for you to call. Hannah will take your calls. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in the morning by the Car Care Council. That's our partners, actually. And if you're traveling this winter, the Car Care Council reminds you to remember the 3 P's of car care, which is to prevent, prepare, and plan. You'll save money and you'll avoid breakdowns, and that's a big deal. You can learn more at carcare.org. And recently, I received a note from the carcare.org site that I signed up where you can put in your VIN, your vehicle identification number, your mileage, and then from there on, they will send you reminders that you need services. It's really it's a nonprofit, it's a neat site. We're going to hear from Daytona early on, and then I'd love to hear from you at 888-227-2546 when we come back. A 2013 Honda Accord came in the shop running rough, stalling, and a check engine light. The vehicle had originally been repaired by another shop. After a thorough diagnosis, we found the vehicle was generating a bad signal from the crankshaft position sensor. This seemed odd as it had just recently been replaced, but the scope doesn't lie. A bad waveform signal needs to be fixed. Our solution? A new crankshaft position sensor from Motorrad. A longtime leader for vehicle thermostats and caps, Motorrad now offers engine management products that are engineered to meet and or exceed OEM specifications. They're designed to perform under severe operating conditions and are resistant to extreme heat. We made the change and that fixed the car. Motorrad engine management products are manufactured in Tier 1 OEM facilities with top quality qualifications. They undergo comprehensive 100% in-line and end-of-line testing to ensure uncompromising quality. Learn more about Motorrad engine management products and other Motorrad solutions at Motorrad.com. In the Car Clinic service bay this week, a 2013 Ford Escape. The customer was having a hard time cranking the vehicle and had to jump-start the car several times in the weeks prior. They assumed it was a failing battery, but it turned out to be something else. After a close inspection, we found the alternator was supplying very low voltage to the system, which can never be fully charged. We charged the battery, tested it, and confirmed it was still good. We then replaced the alternator and performed a starting system test after verifying proper voltage from the alternator. The starter motor showed an abnormally high current draw, likely damaged from all the cranking of the vehicle with low voltage. Our solution? A new Motorcraft starter and alternator, so we could be sure to fix it right. Both parts were readily available at FordParts.com. Motorcraft parts offer OE-approved specifications and performance for all your Ford and Lincoln repairs. Motorcraft, right part, priced right, and you can learn more about Motorcraft starters, alternators, and other high-quality vehicle-specific parts at Motorcraft.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grown, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with this program. A little news flash from Daytona, as always. I love to hear and I love to share with our listeners across the nation and those across the globe that are tuned in to watch Bobby live. I'll wave at the cameras and hope you folks are doing well today. I guess, Happy New Year. Yeah, I mean, it's like really only a couple, 3 days, and you can't forget the holidays because, gosh, isn't that something? So what's my resolution? I'm not going to say. Let's go to Terry. We're going to Terry Sabiston, Motorsports Director for our affiliate in Daytona, WNDB 1150 AM News Talk Radio. Okay, Terry, so what's up in Daytona this weekend?
Well, I'm at the World Center of Racing right now, and we've got a jamboree going on.
Jamboree? You mean like music?
Yeah, it's
music?
Like scouts.
Oh, cool. Cool. Tell us about it.
It's Scout Weekend here at Daytona International Speedway. So they figured while the Scouts were here, they'd do the roar before the 24 and bring out all the cars from the Rolex 24, the Prototype Challenge, the Michelin Challenge, and have them come out here and do practice sessions and qualifying sessions all weekend long. Got a race coming up at 12:15 with the Prototype Challenge. But the place is full of Boy Scouts. And what a better way to get into racing than some of these times. This is the first time some of them ever been to a racetrack, ever seen a race car, ever seen a race, and they get to see the top sports cars in the world out here at Daytona International Speedway. As we got the roar before the 24, preparing for the Rolex 24 coming up in about 3 weeks.
Well, you know, the Rolex 24 is a really big deal, and I can tell you're out there in the wind. And speaking of the Scouts, Johnny Bars, and you've heard me mention Johnny. He's our master ASE certified technician, our shop foreman. He's our shop guru. He's also a Scout master, and he spends almost every weekend. Well, he spends all the weekends with his kids, but his kids are Scouts, and one of his boys is almost at the top level of the scouting, and I don't know a lot about the Scout. Oh, Eagle Scout, yeah, thank you, Fabio. It's almost an Eagle Scout, and what a big deal. And I will tell you, Terry, the influence the Scouts make on young people. So his son, I think Stephen, was like 12 years old, and he was speaking before a class or before some convention with teenagers. And he's up there 12, 13 years old. No, he was 12 years old, and he wasn't even a teenager yet. And he's producing this, and he asked his dad, who is Johnny, says, "Do you need any help?" "No, I got this, Dad." "Oh, let me help you prepare." "No, I got this, Dad." And I will tell you, his dad sat down in the audience, and Terry was blown away. He said, "Where did this kid come from?" He said, "I didn't even know he could do this." And so it's really interesting, exciting. And then recently, I saw a video on the new Corvette, and then now they've started a 30 under 30 with Jay Leno was there for a car concours d'elegance, which is a upper class car show, and there's a new class that's 30 under 30, which means you have to be less than 30 years old or no more than 30, and you have to build the car that you're showing for under $30,000. So I'm just excited because, as you know, folks like me and car guys, we're reaching the age where we wonder who's going to take our place. And so I think whoever set up this scouting event at the Daytona International Speedway, that's pure genius. So tell us a little more about it.
Well, the Scouts come out. They've got the whole end of the track down to turn 3 and just a camping-only area, and it's filled with tents. Right now, and we'll see how this goes. Stay where I'm at. We're going to have WeatherTech championship practice rolling off of pit road any minute now, so I might have to find a quieter place to talk to you. But they're bringing out these cars. You talked about the Corvette. We've got 2 of them here that are practicing, and it's not like the old Corvettes. It sounds totally different, looks different. It's an all-new Corvette, and here they come. I'm actually in between the road course and turn 1. So I've got them over on the road course right now. You can hear them in the background and coming around, and then they're going to head up and turn up into turn 1 and come by me in the opposite direction in another 10 seconds. 133 miles an hour, almost set the track record yesterday out here. And now the fun starts. These guys are literally up against the top of the wall, sliding through the corners, and it's getting pretty loud out here. It's find a quiet place for you.
Just the
There you
sound
go.
of that
I'll
alone.
let you experience that noise as it came to me. That was pretty cool.
That's terrific, Terry. You know, you talk about the Corvette. Now, just for your information, I was really surprised to see this. The Corvette has a hardtop convertible, and the convertible doesn't have a soft top. It's hardtop, and it folds down, get this, into the back of the car. Well, wait a minute now. The back of the car has all of the running gear, the transmission, the engine, and so they've separated the engine, and I was most impressed with that, and I've yet to see one in person. So, when you have an opportunity, shoot us some photos of the Corvette if you have the time today or whenever, and because I want to get out and look at one, but I haven't seen one. Are they on the showroom floor yet?
I'm not sure if they are, but they're on the racetrack right now, and that's just it. We've got the full WeatherTech series out here. We've got the Daytona prototypes, the Le Mans prototypes. We got the GTDs, which is the GT Daytona, and then the GT Le Mans. So there's 4 classes out on the track right now. So all the cars are out here for the next little while. There's an autograph session going on with the Prototype Challenge guys in the fan zone right now for the scouts. And there goes one of the Corvettes, and they do not look. It's not what you expect of a Corvette. It's a whole different. It's totally, completely different car, and sound.
Well, and to that end, a mid-engine Corvette that starts at $60,000. It's just the. I mean, what's not to like about that? I'd like to shift gears here. And I'd like for you to share, and folks, I happen to know this because I've spoken with Terry a little earlier this week. You had your own personal experience with a street car, I mean, if you can call it that, but tell us what you did earlier this week.
BMW did this last year and did it again this year, and they invited the staff and media from the radio station to come out, and they took us for a ride in the new 2020 BMW M8. And to put this in perspective, the car that they're racing on the track this weekend has 400 horsepower. This street car has over 600 horsepower off the showroom floor. This one literally came off the assembly line less than a month ago. It's brand spanking new. And got to take Tom from BMW, one of their professional drivers, took us for a lap. It's four-wheel drive, four-wheel steering, and the intensity of it is just beyond your imagination. We started down toward turn 4 and took off into the tri-oval, and I was the first one to go out. And he goes, first lap, sorry, we're going to have to take it easy, warm the tires up, but we'll make up for it second lap. By the time we came around the tri-oval the second time around, we crossed the start-finish line at about 160 and then dove down toward turn 1, and then all of a sudden he starts turning hard left into the infield, got the speed down to, from what I could tell, as I was leaning sideways, pulling G-forces, I think around 35 to 40 miles an hour. And then accelerated back up to 100, down to about 35 again in the International Horseshoe, and then back out on the road course. And then to jump back up under the speedway up by the wall and headed down the back stretch. It's unbelievable. The car, you can feel it pulling out, the front wheel drive pulling you out into the corners and out of the corners. You can feel the car shifting under you as the rear steering kicked in, is going through the chicane or the bus stop. I've taken ride-alongs before. This was intense, and it's a street car. Top speed 190 miles an hour rated, and it's faster than the race car is out here.
That is amazing. And folks, a four-wheel steering car, I don't know if you've ever driven one, but I have, and a four-wheel steering car, and let's say that you're driving down the interstate 75 miles an hour, and you want to ease over to the other lane. And of course, it doesn't take much of the turn of the steering wheel to move. But when the four-wheel drive, what happens is that car will crab. The rear wheels, if you turn, let's say you're in the right lane, and you want to pull out into the passing lane to the left lane. You turn the wheel ever so slightly. The front wheels turn left, but so do the back wheels turn left. So the car then just sort of skates to the left side. And Terry, I remember specifically that the car gave me the feeling that all I had to do was think in the left lane and I was there. Now, that same automobile below 12 miles per hour, the rear wheels turn the opposite direction. So if you're parallel parking, and you're going to back up, and say you're on the right-hand side, you turn the steering wheel to the right, the rear wheels turn to the left. So the turning radius is unbelievably small because the rear wheels turn in the opposite direction. So you go around in a circle, but of course, once you get above 12 miles per hour, the wheels turn the front and rear in the same direction, and as I said, it crabs. So that had to be for you a really excitement time. Listen, what I'd ask you for you to do, because we're coming up on a break, I have a couple of more important questions about what's going on at the Daytona International Speedway. We have a call from New York, but Terry, you have time to stay with us for 3 minutes. I'll come back to you. We'll finish that conversation. Folks, don't touch the dial. This is exciting. Berryman B12 Chem Tool features HEST, or high-energy solvent technology. Using a combination of stronger solvents, HEST technology helps maximize one-tank cleanup of intake valves, fuel injectors, and combustion chambers. But don't take our word for it. Paul S. had a hot start problem on an 86 Mercure. The injectors were leaking fuel, which flooded the motor. Instead of replacing parts, Paul tried Berryman B12 Chem Tool. After just 2 cans, the car performed better, mileage improved, and the hot start problem went away. Learn more at berrymanproducts.com.
Did you know that birthday parties help build confidence in kids?
Yeah. Did you know that giving kids less sugar before bedtime helps them sleep better?
Oh, totally. Did you know that friendly kids have more friends?
Everybody knows that.
Hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
I didn't know that.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This week, a 2009 RX 350 Lexus came in with 85,000 miles and a loud noise in the front suspension. Now, a lot of noise-related repairs can be difficult to pinpoint, but this one was easy. Left front strut locked in the upright position, causing a banging noise even over the slightest bump. Solution? Replace all struts. We called our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional and ordered 4 new strut assemblies, and also made the decision to buy Master Pro brand, which has performed really well for our previous repairs. We also performed our pre-repair brake fluid procedure while we had the wheels off to save our customer possible caliper issues later on. A 4-wheel alignment and balancing all tires made this 10-year-old Lexus drive as new. Our service team was happy, our customer was happier, and we know we made another great choice by collaborating with our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional. That's why we make O'Reilly Auto Parts our first call. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
Higher, 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment. Folks, we're talking with Terry Sabiston, Motorsports Director for WNDB 1150 AM News Talk Radio there in Daytona. And he's at the Daytona International Speedway, lucky dog. Terry, so tell us a little more about what's going on.
Actually, right now is the WeatherTech Championship Series practice. This is about an hour and a half practice. These guys are out here, and they're preparing for the 24 hours. And they're getting drivers comfortable with what the cars. It's cool coming out here this time of year because everything's new. It's a brand new teams, new cars. Even setting up in the pit box area, I walk down pit road and I get to do that. You get to see the new setups for pit road, and you've got to realize these guys are setting up everything they're planning for when they come here for the 24 hours. When they're here for 3 days and they run a 24-hour race that Saturday, Sunday, they live on pit road. And so they've got to make these tents on pit road comfortable and set up and get all the logistics worked out before the race gets here. And that's what part of this weekend is too. But it's just the drivers' uniforms are crisp and new. The team's got brand new uniforms, new sponsors, new paint jobs. It's all just amazing, and that's what the fun I'm doing right now. I'm sitting here watching one section of the track, and I've got the list of the cars and the teams so that I can figure out who's who and what's what as we go through speed weeks here over the next few weeks. Well, like I say, these Corvettes, they're just a whole different breed of car from what the Corvette used to be.
What about locals? I mean, can the public get out on the track? Not on the track, but I mean in the infield today?
Yeah, the infield's open. It costs $20. I think $15 today. Or no, today's $20 because there's a race, but $15 yesterday, $15 Sunday, and it's $20. You've got full access to the infield. You can walk through the garage. The garage is open just like it would be during the roar. In 24 hours is here. You have garage access with part of your coming to the track and the infield. So yes, it's full access, and that's the fun of it. Literally, on one side of me, I got the infield road course. And on the other side of me, I got the super speedway, less than 100 yards apart. And I'm going to try this again and see if I can get a moment where you can hear them. Literally, there's a Cadillac riding by, the Daytona prototype, and right after him comes a Ford. And then a BMW. And that's just that you're seeing the cars of the day. This is probably closer to stock cars than what you realize, because you can go to the showroom and buy a car that's comparable in speed and handling to some of these cars on the track.
Well, it's so interesting to me. And then in closing, just one final question, Terry. Share with us again about the Scouts. Now, you said they pitch tents. Are you saying that they can spend the night in the infield?
3 days. They come out here. They were out here yesterday morning setting up their tents early Friday morning. They're out here until Sunday. This is a Scout Jamboree. It's Scouts from all over Florida, all over the South. They come in here. They have but one whole end of the track is theirs. That's Scouts only, and that's their section of the camping area. And they are here for 3 days, and they get access. There's an autograph session in the fan zone, so they're going to meet a bunch of the drivers, like literally see the drivers. And that's the other thing, the drivers we got. Walking down pit road yesterday, there's a guy walking next to me, and hey, it's AJ Allmendinger, and you got Kyle Busch and Scott Dixon and all these, Hurley Haywood's wandering around, has 5 Rolexes. It's just these guys they're part of the show too, and it's so much access that you get to them and the fun you get to them, and that's part of what this is. This is a relaxed weekend. It's not the 24 hours, so they're having fun too, and they're enjoying the time as fans and the track and racing. And it's all new. That's what I like. You see brand new helmets, paint jobs, colors. It's just, I'm sorry, I can go on for hours, Bobby.
well, I'll tell you, but we have to go in a different direction. We're going to New York and take a call. But Terry, as always, thank you so much. And I want to close with this. At this particular time, Johnny Bars, our master ASE certified, my guru in the shop here, is on vacation, on a cruise. But, and I can assure you, I can't assure you, but I believe next year, now this Scout event, that's every year, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
This has been going on several years, and they've gotten such a great response because it brings what a better way to reach out to the next generation.
No question. So I'm going to mention that and make sure that he knows that. He'll be back to work Monday. But anyway, so much to talk about, and thank you so much and congratulations to all the folks there and for sharing with us the latest in racing and cars and kids and the Scouts and everything else here on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I sure appreciate it, and I know that all of our audiences do. So thank you so much, Terry. It's great to have you in the house today.
Thanks, Bobby. I'm going to step out again to give you the ambient sound here of what's going on around me. But it's a beautiful day at Daytona. $2 to get in. Come on out and join us. We got a race starting at 12:15. We got practice going at 8 o'clock tonight. It's a gorgeous day at Daytona International Speedway.
Way cool. Terry Saveston, I'll tell you, it just doesn't get any better. He's a nice guy, and he's there. I can assure you, he puts in a lot more hours than he gets paid for. But then again, he's having a lot of fun as well. We're going to go from Daytona now and take a trip north to New York and talk to Joel. Joel, thank you so much for your patience and for waiting. That was just exciting to hear what's going on in the racing center of the world, Daytona Beach. But what's going on in New York?
Well, first I want to say thanks for taking my call, and man, what a segment with Terry. That was fascinating to hear.
Very much so.
And I never knew that before, but just absolutely fascinating. So it's kind of, to transition to my question, is kind of insignificant in a sense, but I'll still ask. I got a 1998 Mercury Mountaineer, and I had it parked in a garage for probably 6-8 weeks.
Okay.
I went to start it. The battery's dead, so I jump-started it. Started hard, which always started right off before, but it started hard. And then when it did start, it sounded like an exhaust leak. So there was my mechanic right around the corner, so I took it over there and drove up. He had come out, and he says, "Well, you blew a spark plug." I says, "What?"
Wow.
And so I was curious as to, I never heard it before, but that's what it is. The porcelain part came right off, and dangling there.
Right.
And it was blowing. I didn't even know that the spark plug would be open like that. But have you ever heard of it before?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Usually, most of the time when a spark plug blows out, the plug itself blows out because it wasn't properly tightened. But if the center, which is the porcelain part, blows out, then that's because the plug, let's face it, the porcelain is glass. So that glass is an insulator between the high voltage of the spark and the actual socket that screws into the head, the plug body.
Right.
And so that's really not a big deal. There's an easy out, which is a reverse twist hardened steel. And so what he'll do is he'll simply drill out what's left in there, because there'll be pieces, and may not be. Hopefully the whole thing blew out, and then he'll put this unit in there, or he may just be able to, if the center part blew out, just use a regular hex spark plug and pull out the remainder, which is the part that holds the rest of it in anyway. Or have you already gotten it out?
No.
Okay.
I just, like I said, he's only 2 houses away, so I just pulled it over there, and he's going to take a look at it Tuesday. But I just, curiosity got me when I'm like, I just never heard of that before, and I'm like, how does that happen?
Yeah, let me share this with you, because it's really interesting, and for all you technicians out there or do-it-yourselfers, here's a little interesting factoid. So if you have a metal plug, which is the spark plug's body, and then you have within the metal plug, of course, the center hole where the electrode goes through, and the electrode is mounted and sealed from the body, so because of the voltage, with glass, with ceramic. So how could you possibly secure the ceramic within the shell of the spark plug body? I mean, so you say, well, you crimp it, and Joel, it is crimped, but here's the bottom line. Let's just put your finger in your, grab your finger with your hand, and if you squeeze it hard enough, and metal has a memory, and metal is also flexible. So if you squeezed the spark plug body hard enough that it would hold the glass, you would destroy the glass. You'd crack it. Yeah. So what they do is, and if you look where the hex head is on a spark plug, and all you techies listen to this, because very few people know this. I've actually seen it in action. If you look at where the hex head of a spark plug, any spark plug is, and then you look at the round part below that, and then the gasket goes on underneath, and the threads are at the rest of the bottom. If you look in the middle, let's call it the belly. If you look in the center belly of a spark plug at the metal part, you'll see it's discolored, because when they make the porcelain and then they run it through a kiln, and it goes from dust into a hardened ceramic, and then afterwards they have to seal the ceramic into the body. What they do, and it's very interesting, they run a current around the belly of the spark plug, and it glows red, and when it does, they take the current off, and then when it of course you take the current off and it glows red, then it of course cools off, and when it cools, it heightens and forms to the ceramic. But the ceramic has more power than the metal because the metal is simply cooling off. So there's no outside crimping machine that's forcing it. In that, I think it's so interesting, and I learned that in 1988, 88 in Germany when I watched Bosch spark plug, and I will tell you, you talk about OSHA. This plant that I went to in OSHA, they had this hopper that looked like a grain hopper. I mean, I must have been 10 feet tall and 5 feet in diameter, and it all came down to a little tiny box of 24 spark plugs, and it was going and it was depositing dust, and that dust was ceramic dust. And of course, because it was dust, and because it was filling the air with particles, and there were people in there with no mask on. I mean, this was in Germany.
Wow.
It's really very interesting, and so I was able to follow those boxes of freshly or being manufactured spark plugs, and this was at a plant where a good friend of mine his name was Gernot K.D. Heck. And there he had 7,000 employees at that Bosch plant. Hey, you got to go. There's Joel. Thank you so much for sharing your problem. And it wasn't incidental. And folks, 888-CAR-FINIC, call with your problem. But don't touch the dial. I'll be back. A 2015 Ford Escape recently came into the shop. 120,000 miles and going strong. But it was starting to hesitate, and the customer also complained of declining fuel economy. This 2-liter turbocharged engine is GDI, or gas direct injection, and special maintenance is needed in certain areas, particularly the fuel system. We suspected carbon buildup, and sure enough, using a borescope through the spark plug hole, there was definite evidence of carbon buildup. GDI engines are different in the way they inject fuel, and it can create some issues with repair and maintenance. That's why it's important to use products rated for GDI, like Berryman's 4-step professional air and fuel management maintenance kit. Each step of the process is designed with GDI engines in mind. We use the kit, and after 2 weeks on the road, the car is performing noticeably better, and MPG has improved a bit. Learn more about Berryman's 4-step professional air and fuel management maintenance kits and other great products at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
I hope you had a fantastic holiday, and I hope that you really had a safe and enjoyable New Year's Eve. You know, more and more when I ask folks, or people ask me, I mean, I think that's just sort of a common question. Hey, what are you going to do New Year's Eve? And depending on the age, which means the experience of the person that you're asking, it's like, well, I'll be at the house. I'm not getting out on the road with all those crazies. And we did go out, my wife and I, and joined some friends at a local eatery. We really enjoyed that, and we took Uber. So I got to the restaurant, and it's one of my favorite, and there was a wide open space right in front of the restaurant. I mean, 2 spaces. And usually I like to park my car there when I drive, and I said, so I turned to my wife in the back seat of that Uber, and I said, look at there, sweetheart, there's a place I can put my car. I could be right there. It'd be safe, and, you know, and we're not going to drink a lot. We're going to eat, and, you know, and what have you. So I went on in, got out of the Uber, and we stayed, length of time. We helped to close the place up, really. We just really enjoyed, and we know all the folks at the restaurant. All night long, those 2 places were open. And I just couldn't believe that I'd lost that opportunity to just show you how the mind works. I felt so dumb because what they had done is they'd saved those places because they were using them for, you know, the parking, you know, the valet parking. And normally, I mean, you know, so Fabio was like, oh, there, look at that, right in front, you know. And we always fight. I say we always fight. I vie for the parking place, and there's some parking places. Then from the last place that you park in front of the restaurant to the corner, there's room enough for a car. It's not legal parking, but if the car that's parked, that last one, is not quite filled the complete markup, you can park there, and as a rule, you don't get a ticket. I have gotten a ticket there on Saturdays after the program, so I quit parking there now. But the bottom line is, there I was in my mind thinking about, well, what a perfect place. So it just goes to show you that what you really think, and you think you know what's going on, and and it was a good idea that they had, because they were doing, but we did Uber. They were doing the valet parking, but that was really very interesting. Yeah, and also I'll share another story with you. And I get emails all the time. First, let me invite you to call, 888 Car Clinic. Hannah will take your call at 888-227-2546. So if you have a story to share, maybe a good story, maybe a shop that saved you a lot of money, or maybe you want to, for the year 2020, you want to know more about what to do to your car to add life, or maybe what to do to your car to bring it back to life. And speaking of that, I recently received this week an email from a Car Clinic listener who wanted to know if there was a product that he could add to the engine oil of his car, been setting up for 12 years, that would help stop oil leaks. And of course, what I sent to him, and I won't read it verbatim, but I just recommended that he add the Berryman B60 high mileage oil rejuvenator, because it's formulated to revitalize seals and gaskets, and that helps stop engine oil leaks. Although, folks, no additive will repair a damaged or a cracked gasket or seal, but the Berryman B60 will actually, it's non-invasive, and it's the first step to reducing leaks. So just for your information, I thought that was really kind of neat that I would get that question, and immediately I said, well, is there a product that really will stop oil leaks? And if it depends on the severity of the leak, obviously, but it's a great product. It's called Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator, which also cleans and protects the crankcase and the engine oiling system for all gas-powered vehicles. And here's a little trick that I learned. I say a trick, so what's in that stuff? We always wonder, what's in this stuff that I'm buying? Well, this Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator contains, and this is a product that I knew about before, zinc-based ZDDP and molybdenum, which fights friction, heat, and wear. And it's really safe for catalytic converters and oxygen sensors. So just for you to know, the oil that you have in your engine today does not have ZDDP in it. Does not have molybdenum, or it could have molybdenum, but not ZDDP, which is zinc-based, because it's just not, they changed the formulation of oil. So you can actually use this product as like a booster shot to your regular oil. It's really a great product, and I was proud that I was able to help someone, and I can't wait to hear back. If you've got an email question from our mailbag, you can send it to me. Just don't tell anyone I gave you my personal email address. It's Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, duh. No, not duh, but it's Bobby at carclinicnetwork.com. And Car Clinic Network is all one word, not case sensitive. That is my personal email address. I used to spend 15 hours, Fabio, 15 hours a week answering emails. 15 hours a week. And so I took my email offline. And if you look at our website, Car Clinic Network, for an email, you won't find it except on Thursdays, because I used to open it up on Tuesdays and Thursdays, because we produced a Pal Talk program on Thursday for an hour, and then on Tuesday, I forget why we did it for some reason, but one of those days. So occasionally one will come through, because my email will be easy to, when somebody goes there, they can find it, But in the meantime, folks, if you do have a specific question, but if you do send me an email, and I'll take the time to do that. I have more time these days. Make sure that you put your year, make, model, mileage, and your VIN number, the vehicle identification number. That's the birth, certificate of your car, so that offline, I don't use any computers in the studio here, but offline during the week, I can look at my database and find specific answers to issues with your car that otherwise I wouldn't be able to answer properly. When I say properly, I answer questions here on Bobby Likis Car Clinic that are generic in nature. But understand this, and this is a bone of contention I have with regard to looking online for questions and solutions. The questions and solutions that I share here and or that you see online are not specific to your automobile. I genericize my answers, because if you really have an issue with your specific car, it takes hands-on real technicians to really solve the problem. Now, that's not true for adding a chemical to the oil or the fuel, or to maybe changing our viscosity of oils and what have you, or the type of oils. I mean, generically, we can talk about it, but you couldn't call me and say, I've got a 2005 Chevrolet. What's the best size tire to put on it? Well, who knows? Look at what the car calls for. Look online. So it's really, really interesting. There's another email that I received about diesels. Now, I'll tell you straight up, I don't know a lot about diesels. They're much better these days. All I know is they were noisy and smelly and those sorts of things, but these days they're much quieter because of the design of the engine and what have you. And the real problems that we see with diesels are not with the diesel engines. It's with the smog devices that are mandated for the diesels. And you have filters and particulate matter, and, all that soot that comes out. Well, the soot that comes out is trapped in the filter. There's a soot filter. And that's where you get the fluid, which is you add the fluid, and that fluid, actually the device itself, the device meaning the vehicle, goes into a cleaning mode. And actually you can clean it yourself, because it takes 45 minutes to an hour. So imagine this filter that you drive around. Well, you change the filter? Well, no. Well, how do you clean the filter? Because ultimately it will stop up and a vehicle will stop running. So what the manufacturers did is they inject the filter with the fluid and diesel fuel, and they cause the temperature to go crazy. And this happens as you're driving, but only when the throttle, only under certain conditions. It's just really interesting. I won't go into how that procedure works, but I will tell you it's really a longer procedure than you think, because you don't know when it's happening until maybe a check engine light comes on, and then you're warned that, hey, you've got a problem here. And if you drove the diesel, for instance, BMW years ago, you got a diesel engine and you don't have the fluid in it, and you drive it, the light comes on, says you're low on fluid. You're lower on fluid. Wait a minute, you're out of fluid. And then it gets to the point where, okay, no more, and it will not start. It is you're electronically locked out of using your vehicle because you let it run out of the fluid. Let's go to take a call from Stan. Good morning, Stan. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Good morning. How is things at your marvelous place? I've been excited to listen about the things that are happening in Daytona. As you remember, my racing heritage was with all those kind of people. I got to get back down there, I think.
I think so too, Stan. It excites me. I've been there many times. We've produced more than a dozen remote car clinic broadcasts from there, from the college there, from also John Hall Chevrolet, from the racetrack. And every time that I've been, I'm just overwhelmed with how friendly people are, and people that I've never thought that I'd meet. They will come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm George from Ormond Beach, and you helped me one day with my car about 10 years ago." So it really is exciting. But anyway, what's on your mind this morning?
Well, I had my CX-5 at about 3.5 years from new, battery failure, and I didn't anticipate it. I didn't hear it. You know, I have gotten used to the fact that there's less backup on the batteries on these new cars.
Right.
But this one never really had any hard starting, never which is usually okay.
Yeah, you get that. You get that. You get that warning, especially you having an automotive background. That warning sound. But you're saying it was start fine. All of a sudden, no start.
That's correct. Leaving from dinner, I went there and I got in the car and pressed the brake and the start button, and the whole dash went into. I don't know if you remember a pachinko machine, but it was crazy.
Yeah,
things were lightning, and there was a tick coming from underneath the hood, and I tried reversing. I did lots of stuff, and I said, okay, well, I'll see if I can get a slave start. I went to the hatch on the back, and it's electric, and I couldn't get in the hatch to get my jumper cables out.
Yeah. So
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I'm calling to cause people to know that sometimes, well, my jumper cables are now under the passenger seat. And I replaced the battery with not a flooded battery. It's your suggestion. It cost a few bucks, but the guy at O'Reilly says, "Oh, you won't be needing a battery in this thing for forever now."
Well, a funny thing you should say that, because we had recently, in the last month or two, a customer came in, and his car was less than 4 years old. He'd had a battery issue. It really put him down at the worst possible time. And he came in and talked to Rusty, our service manager, and he said, "Okay, fix my car. Put a good battery in it. I want a good battery." And we put an AGM battery in that vehicle, and you never have to worry about it again. I mean, I say not never. I mean, nothing's forever, but I will tell you, I'm glad you bought the AGM battery. You know, and obviously they are partner sponsors of Car Clinic, but Clarius and I'm not sure if you've heard this or not, Clarius, who now is the probably, well, 1 in 3 batteries stand in the world is a Clarius. And Clarius acquired Johnson Controls, and every hour they actually recycle 8,000 batteries every hour of every day of the year. Unbelievable. It's a great company. Clarius, yeah. Hey, thank you so much for your call and for your heads up on opening the trunk when it's electronically opened. And also, Happy New Year to you. Thank you, sir.
Happy New Year, Bobby. Bye-bye.
And folks, to that end, this week I had another customer call with a 2019 Lexus with a dead battery. And the reason it had a dead battery is because he had a radar detector wired to it directly, and it ran the battery down. The problem was, and he knew this because he'd had this problem before, but he loaned the car to his daughter, and it was in his daughter's house. The Lexus had a key fob under the above the tag, the license plate, to get in mechanically. That's all the time I have. Likis, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, you never want to get surprised by a dead battery. A vehicle's original battery generally lasts about 3 to 5 years, but many fail long before then. Next time you're in for an oil service, have the technician test your battery. Better now than too late. Today's vehicles have start-stop systems, navigation, radio amplifiers, electric fuel pumps, 25 or more onboard computer modules, and serious electronic controls that depend on a strong, fully charged battery. Make sure the car you're driving has a healthy battery. Make yourself a note. Go to autobatteries.com and see for yourself how a battery can keep you safely driving down the road or put you on the side, just like that. At autobatteries.com, you'll see battery technology, battery testing, how to choose the battery, how to jumpstart your battery, and more about AGM batteries, my choice. I'm not here to make you a battery expert, rather to help you better understand why a reliable battery is essential for your road trips. Go to autobatteries.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemulls. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And thank you, Marty White. Good morning, folks. Welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. This would be our second hour of the Saturday broadcast, and we are live from the center of the automotive universe right here inside our studios, inside a 15,000 square foot automotive service shop that's just really way cool. So some 50, 60 hours a week for 48 years and 7 months. We service, maintain, and repair automobiles. And then on Saturday, you and I get to talk about that. So I see both sides of the fence here. I've walked on both sides. In other words, as a car owner and then as a car service provider as well. So I understand some of the frustrations that you can encounter with automotive service, and I'm here to help you at 888 Car Clinic. 888-227-2546. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats, closure caps, and engine management hardware. You can learn more about their products and the industry-leading application coverage of Motorrad. Where? Well, thought you'd never ask. Motorrad.com. That's Motorrad.com. Terrific products. We use them at Bobby Likis Car Clinic Service Shop as well. Okay, it's time for your calls. Hannah will take your calls at 888-227-2546, and I'll put you on air when I come back. Time for another edition of Cooling System Q&A, brought to you by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats and caps. Why is the thermostat so important? Cooling system regulates engine temperature and helps prevent overheating. While it's comprised of several components, the thermostat plays a critical role with efficient cooling system operation. It must regulate coolant flow properly to maintain a specific engine operating temperature, in addition to providing quick warm-up. Motorrad's new stainless steel thermal element UltraStat is unmatched for corrosion resistance. Its revolutionary Reax wax mixture provides quicker reaction time. The UltraStat also features bilinear valve technology, which prevents thermal shock to cooling system components, gradually increasing coolant flow versus instant maximum flow found in traditional thermostats. The UltraStat precisely controls engine temperature to ensure the lowest emission standards, maximum fuel efficiency, and terrific interior cabin comfort. The Motorrad UltraStat line is the perfect thermostat upgrade option with coverage for over 160 million vehicles on the road today. Motorrad, leading the way in coverage and service. Folks, a 91 Lumina came into the shop this week with a 3.1-liter V6 leaking coolant. The customer said there was coolant coming from the front of the engine and was worried it may need costly repair. After diagnosis, we confirmed it had a failing head gasket. Checking the labor guide for times, adding the cost of the head gasket set, plus coolant, oil, and filter, and miscellaneous, the repair would definitely cost more than this vehicle was worth. Not the holiday present our customer was hoping for. So we provided another option, K-Seal. K-Seal is a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging and help prevent future leaks. One bottle completely sealed the leak within 10 minutes, and our customer was very happy. K-Seal is available at fine retailers everywhere, like O'Reilly Auto Parts. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started. 888-227-2546. If you have a car question or just want to talk cars or tires or oils or automotive philosophy. What is automotive philosophy? Well, I can tell you, I can say this. The philosophy, my philosophy for the condition of automobiles is pretty simple. It's not simple to pull off, but it's simplistic in definition. So here's how here's the condition your car should be in as we speak. Now, let's say that 2 o'clock in the morning, heaven forbid, you got a call from a loved one in another state, or from whether it's a family member or a longtime friend, and you have to travel. That you have to get out of bed, put your clothes on, and get in your car and go. Now, obviously, you may have to buy gas, no doubt, because if you're traveling, you got to have gas. But everything else about your car should be ready to go, including the tire and tire pressure, the windshield wipers, the oil and oil filter for, if you've been putting it off, you say, it's 5,000 now it's 5,500. And next thing you know, you look down, wow, it's been 7,500 miles, and then you're at 8,000 miles, and now you get a call, then you've got to go from the East Coast to the West Coast. That's not good. So your car should be in a situation mechanically and under its maintenance schedule that you can get in it and go, and it's just like driving almost new. Not new, but almost new. So those are the kind of things. So how do you pull that off? So you number one, well, I'll tell you a little more about it later in the program, because there's certain steps that you can do, and there's a website or two that I can send you to where you can get some help. Otherwise, you can just tune in every Saturday morning right here, and I can help you. In the meantime, let's go to Greg, who has an 07 Cherokee that stalls out. Greg, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Let's talk about your vehicle.
Hello.
Hello. Tell us about your problem.
I bought this thing. I bought the Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's a limited edition with the 4.7 V8.
Right.
I bought it last summer, and as a second car. But we really like the car. It's been, it's a really nice looking vehicle for what it is. The problem is when we bought it, shortly after we got it, I started having problems with it when it would get hot or up to operating temperature.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to sit in a traffic light or in a drive-through. After it sits for, idles for a couple of minutes, it'll act like it's going to start stalling out on me.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll do it, and it'll catch back on. A couple of times it has actually stalled out, but it'll start right back up. I've had it to a mechanic a couple of times. Just so happens each time that I take it to him, that night it'll turn cold or cooler, like Florida does.
Right.
And it won't act up for him. But as soon as the weather warms back up, it starts doing it again.
Well, how about the check engine light? Does it ever come on? I mean, other than the fact that when you first crank it up, I mean, does it flash on or?
It did one time when it really acted up bad on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually trying to accelerate from a traffic light, and it would just keep balking like it wanted to stall out, but it wouldn't do it completely.
Mm-hmm.
And then the check engine light came on. It started flashing at first.
Wow.
Then it came on steady. I took it home because I happen to have a reader at home, and I took pictures of the codes that came up. I don't know why, but something told me to do it. When I took it to the mechanic, all the codes had cleared. But I told him what had shown up, and the codes that had shown up were injector codes, and then all of them were to do with the injectors. Now, he's telling me that he thinks it might possibly be the fuel pump getting ready to go out or a vacuum leak problem.
Well, that's two certain. Those are two guesses, and a vacuum leak would only allow more air into the engine, which it's not a vacuum leak. Number one, a vacuum leak would allow more air in the engine, which would increase the RPM of the engine, and also could lean out the mixture, and it could make the oxygen sensor, have to overcorrect. So there's some obvious side effects of vacuum leaks, but not what you're talking about. And a vacuum leak wouldn't be erratic. I mean, not that a vacuum leak can't be erratic, but that doesn't fit that description generally. So, and I have to speak in general terms. Now, from a fuel system, yes, you could have a fuel pump issue, but usually once a vehicle gets up and running, then the fuel pump has already started and it's already running. So unless a fuel pump goes really bad, it won't and quits. You'll know it because the car won't run. And when you first try to crank the car, it may vroom and then go dead, because a fuel pump that is failing is more prone to not start up in the morning or after you've shut it down, because it takes more to get it going than to keep it going, and law of inertia.
Okay.
So, and that's a general term as well. So getting back to the root here, you were smart to shoot those codes. I mean, literally photo those codes, although I don't know why they would be cleared, because your code reader doesn't clear codes, to my knowledge. I guess it could.
Yeah,
but,
I didn't.
Yeah.
I did not erase the codes.
Exactly.
So they cleared on their own somehow.
Well, that is unusual. Now, here's what's really concerns me. A check engine light that comes on means that the computer, the power control module, or ECM, electronic control module, the computer, and there's a lot of them on there, but the one that runs the engine, has seen a deficiency or a problem with an electronic part for a certain length of time, and long enough that, it's like one of my favorite analogies of like having a classroom full of kids, and you got this young Bobby in there who keeps, bothering people and making noises or pulling the girl's hair in front of him, and pretty soon the teacher says, "Hey, Bobby, cut it out," and finally, it's time out. Go to the dean's office or go to the principal's office or whatever. Okay, so a computer in a car is the same way. It sees this aggravation for a while, whether it's electronic issue or a performance issue or a transmission shifting or exhaust. It sees these problems, but they have to exist. The problem has to exist enough number of times and long enough before that sets a check engine light, except, and here comes the exception, when you've got something that is detrimental to the engine, like a defective injector, or maybe even an injector driver, electronic driver that's inside the computer, then the light flashes. Anytime you see a check engine light flashing, you should not drive that car, because that is something that is detrimental to the longevity of the engine, and there's some damaging effects that could be going on. And so, to me, Greg, this leads me to believe that you may have an ECM problem, and that's not good, because that could be so erratic and so hard to find, and so and so there's another thing that comes into mind. And being it's a Jeep, I'm not sure, because it's a V8, that this is applicable. But we did have a Jeep in the shop recently that had a 6-cylinder engine, and the wiring harness that feeds the injectors goes under the throttle body across the top of the engine and is supported and located and attached to the engine inside a little plastic shield or housing. And so just think of a clothesline, and then you say, well, how do I support the clothesline other than it's attached to each end? You put a black plastic square tubing over it, and now the clothesline, you can't see it. You just see okay, well, that's what this was. So what had happened was it meaning these wires and insulation had been damaged, and it had wires, naked wires. And then, well, I'll tell you, stay right there, and I've got the rest of the story when I come back. In the service bay this week, an 05 Chevy Silverado. The truck was experiencing a front brake noise and a pull to the left when stopping. We performed a thorough inspection and found the front pads completely worn out on the driver's side. The passenger side looked to be okay, but we noticed a loose wheel bearing on that side. Why would the pads be worn on just one side? It was a seized driver's side brake caliper. So we replaced the pads and rotors on the front along with the driver's side caliper. Also replaced the passenger side wheel bearing. Our parts choice for the repair, Omnicraft. With today's complex vehicles, not every part works or works well. Quality, fit, and function is a belief system in my shop. Approved and backed by Ford Motor Company for most non-Ford and non-Lincoln vehicles, Omnicraft quality brake parts will help ensure vehicle reliability and longevity. Learn more about Omnicraft brakes and other Omnicraft parts at omnicraftautoparts.com. Omnicraft Auto Parts, backed by Ford. Being car care aware is important all year round, but winter is an especially critical time as harsher conditions can strain your automobile. Here are a few items to check, courtesy of the Car Care Council. Winter means shorter days and longer nights. It's a great time to make sure interior and exterior lights are working properly, and don't forget to make sure your headlights are properly aimed. This item is often overlooked. The best way to warm up your engine in the winter is to drive gently at the start. Make sure your ice scraper and snow brush are accessible, and replenish your emergency kit. Jumper cables, a flashlight, blankets, extra clothes, bottled water, non-perishable food, and a first aid kit with any medication that may be needed. It may seem like a lot, but better safe than sorry. For more great tips, videos, and recommended service schedules, visit carcare.org. And while you're there, order a free copy of the Car Care Guide for your glove compartment. That's carcare.org.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip
from Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back, folks. 888 Car Clinic is the number. Hannah will take your call and put you in the queue, and I'll be glad to put you on the air. It's 888-227-2546. We're talking with Greg. So Greg, you know, there's not much that you can do that I could think of. So I'm trying to think, well, what could I recommend on this Cherokee that wouldn't cost a lot of money, and in other words, there's no way that I would know what could be wrong with it, but I have seen. But let's talk about it a minute. We know that that it's affected. It's something that is affected by heat, and so the hotter it gets, Well, what does that mean? Well, it means underhood temperature. So what is underhood temperature? Now, you say, well, wait a minute, the fuel gets hot too, but not really, because the fuel it circulates. You know, it goes up, and then a pressure regulator, whatever the engine doesn't use, goes right back to the tank, and it keeps going round robin all the time. And so that's probably not the issue. Could be a fuel pump. Again, I doubt it, because even though that could be affected. So then what would be my suggestion? And this is really only a suggestion, but it's inexpensive, and it just might be worthy of, I guess, a gamble. And gosh, I rarely ever, if ever, use that word. But a crankshaft position sensor will affect not only the performance, but the very running of an engine. And you're having some issues under extreme heat with acceleration, and that check engine light flashed. And there's nothing. There's a lot of things that can make it flash, but there's nothing as simple as a crankshaft position sensor. And given it's a V8. Two things I'd like for you to do. Number one, I do recommend that you replace the crankshaft position sensor, because that is not expensive to do, and the engine is dependent on that particular part. But before you replace a sensor, go to, and you've heard me speak of many times, ALLDATA, ALLDATA. Go to alldata.com, and there's a professional pro site that you can't get into, and then there's a site for consumers. And what I would like for you to do, and if you send me an email, I can do this for you on the pro side if you don't get in. So after our conversation, I'll put you on hold, and Hannah will. My email is bobby@carclinicnetwork.com. Can you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. carclinicnetwork.com. Okay. So send me a note, because here's what you want to look for. You want to see because you've got an 07 vehicle, so it's got a lot of age on it, if there's an updated crankshaft position sensor or engine wiring harness. And I don't mean the whole harness, but and the reason I mention that is because I remember, and I don't know what year it was, but I specifically remember having an issue with Jeeps that had to do with the distributor, and this was back in the old six-cylinder days, and yours is a V8, but this was a six-cylinder days, which I wish they really had left that engine alone. It was an indestructible engine, quite candidly. Obviously, it was an emissions rule that made Jeep get away from that engine. But all of us in the industry, I mean, without exception, we love the old six-cylinder Jeep. The distributor had problems, and there was an updated crankshaft position sensor, because the sensor plugs into the block, and then it's got a wire. And that wire then plugs into the sensor, and then it runs through the firewall and goes to the computer. Well, the updated sensor came with a wire that did not have a plug. You screwed it into the block, and then you ran it through the firewall. You actually had to drill a hole in the firewall and use a grommet, and then plug it directly into the computer. Basically, that's as I remember, and that could be, maybe there was a plug inside the compartment, the passenger's compartment. But the bottom line is, I know there was a problem with the crankshaft position sensor for Jeep vehicles, and that might be part of. So if this local shop that you have, it subscribes to ALLDATA, and there are other industry subscribers that shops use as well, other companies, but we use ALLDATA primarily. Look for a technical service bulletin related to engine management. And the engine management means powertrain control. It means crankshaft position sensors, camshaft position sensors, and the like. So that's what I would do if I were you. And that's probably the least invasive pocketbook-wise, and that's what I'm thinking about. And from time-wise, too. You know, any questions? Any questions?
No, I was just looking back at the photos and the codes that were coming up. I think I said it already, but they were injector codes.
Yeah, I know.
And then there was a 300. I think it was 306. I'm trying to recall. That was like multi-injector.
Well,
and
yeah,
so there was like 4 or 5 of those codes that came up with the different injectors, and then the multi-injector one.
Well, again, those injectors are fired, and the power goes to them directly from the ECM. So you don't want that to happen, and you just have to. If that's the case, that's another long, drawn out, and I hope that doesn't give you that problem. I hope that that's not an ECM, because the ECMs rarely fail. They just start to lose their edge, and they have parts and components, and almost universally, whenever we've had a car that had an ECM issue, we replace the ECM as a last final ditch effort, and that fixed the problem. But we don't want to do that because they're expensive. But sometimes you can go to some parts houses have remanufactured PCMs, and as the cars age, then there's more of them. And then another thing too, of course, you're not going to find this in a recycling yard. You can go to a recycling yard, but you don't buy electronic parts at recycling yards. That's just, you don't do that. We do. I say you don't as a rule. But if something is $1,000 and you can buy one for $100 out of a used car, it's worth a try, Anyway, hey, thanks for your call, man. I wish I had better. Anytime electronics gets involved, the conversation is long, and I wish I had a silver bullet, but I don't have one. Okay, all right.
All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy. So take care. Good luck. So I get emails, and Hannah will take your call, by the way, 888-227-2546. I get another email in my mailbag. And that's Bobby at carclinicnetwork.com, from a gentleman with a diesel. And he said, I hear you talking about taking care of vehicles and what have you, but I don't hear you talking much about diesels. And I don't really talk a lot about diesels, but I guess this time of the year, one of the issues that diesels have is fuel gelling. And so that's what this gentleman from New York, and so I said, here's what I would recommend. And there's a chemical that you can buy that treats diesel fuel. And this particular chemical is tested and proven, and it prevents gelling in even the coldest weather. So a lot of this, that's called Howes, Howes, and Howes Diesel Treat. It's probably in the nation the most trusted anti-gel, and it does more than just stop the diesel fuel from gelling, but there's other issues because of ULSD. You ever heard of ULSD? Probably. Fabio, you ever heard it? It's ultra low sulfur diesel. And so the parts per million of sulfur went from thousands of parts per million, I think, to 500. I mean, or even 5. I forget now what the spec is, but it's really low. So what does that mean without the sulfur? It means there's a lack of lubricity in diesel fuel. The Howes diesel fuel treatment increases the lubricity to the ejectors and the pumps and the upper cylinders. So that helps with engine performance, and certainly it adds a lot of life. So that was my reply to this gentleman, again from New York, where it's really cold. And also it helps with any moisture issues that you might have. And of course, we all know that diesel fuel and moisture, that's why you have water separators and fuel filters. But in the meantime, let me give you their website, and you can get more information. HowesLube.com, HOWES lube.com. We'll take another call, and just remember that every Saturday, from 10 till noon Eastern Time, we're here for you, and not only take your calls, but I share with you information that I learned and have learned over many, many years I've been in the business, probably forgotten more than a lot of people will learn, because during my profession and my career, I've always, well, since 1970, which is a long time, I've always had more technicians that worked with me than just being a technician myself. So where one person, and we as individuals get our own experiences and have our own educational classrooms and courses that we all take, when you have 3 to 5 to 9 technicians working under you that you help them every day, then your learn rate is unbelievably increased, as you might. I mean, you know, and it reminds me that I called a gentleman years ago named Gil Younger. We used to put shift kits in transmissions. Now you can't do that, but you can reprogram them. That's what we love about our super chips, because you can reprogram the transmission to shift. I wish I had one for my Jag. But the bottom line is, we used to, with every transmission service, depending on the customer and the application, I'd put in a shift kit from Gil Younger. And you modified the spring rates inside the valve body. And it worked, you know, verbatim. So I called Gil one day, and I had a problem with the C4, and I said, I've got this problem, and I'm a pretty good transmission guy, and, you know, and I went on with my question to him because I needed help. He said, so you think you're a pretty good transmission person? I said, well, yeah, you know. He said, well, you do 3 or 4 a month. I have 100 questions a day that I solve their questions, their transmissions, on the phone. Think about that. When I come back, I'll take William's call. Folks, recently a 99 Chevrolet Blazer came into the shop. The owner was having problems with hesitation upon acceleration. He'd already changed out several parts: spark plugs, wires, ignition coil, mass airflow sensor, fuel filter, and the air filter element. He even changed the thermostat and coolant temperature sensor. Still had the same problem after putting a lot of money in this car, and he was frustrated. We dug a little deeper, cleaned the throttle body, and checked for trouble codes. No codes. So we recommended Berryman B12 Chem Tool. Carbon deposits and dirty fuel injector nozzles are a common problem with drivability in late model engines. We also recommended a higher quality gasoline. The customer noticed improvement on the first day, and only a few days and a few hundred miles later, the problem was completely gone. Berryman B12 Chem Tool features HEST, Berryman's exclusive high-energy solvent technology. The result is a more complete combination of available chemical technologies. Drive to BerrymanProducts.com for more information. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, brought to you in part by K-Seal. I just love that product because it makes me look good. Why? Because we've saved a lot of customers who brought their cars in, or their cars brought them in, being towed in with overheating head gaskets and what have you, and the car wasn't worth what it would take to repair. And we use K-Seal, which is a one-step pour-in solution designed to stop coolant leaks and help prevent coolant leaks future-wise, like engine blocks and head gaskets and water pumps. You can find K-Seal at Menards, in addition to fine auto parts stores nationwide. So if you have an issue with coolant leak, don't just seal it, K-Seal it. William, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thank you for holding. I understand you have a 05 Caravan. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I've got a 05 Caravan. I just had new tires put on it, but afterwards, when I was driving it, between 40, 50 miles an hour, I started to get a side-to-side wobble. And at first I thought, okay, well, it's lateral run-out on the tires. Mm-hmm. But if you apply a load, give it gas. If you apply a load, you get a wobble. As soon as you back off on the accelerator, within a half a second, it smooths right out. So I'm going, okay, well, I don't think it's the tires because they'd continue to, lateral run-out would continue to run. Mm-hmm. This thing's got 3.3 engine, front-wheel drive. Mm-hmm. Do we have a CV joint going out?
Inner CV joint. Inner. Yeah, it's really, it happens. You would think, if there's an inner and an outer, and the outer, of course, usually that's where they get all of the two CV joints in a CV axle. The inner and the outer. The outer is the one that has to steer the wheel and drive the wheel around a corner. So I've often used this analogy, if you want to drill a hole in let's say you're going to put up a shelf, and you take a drill and drill a hole in the wall. Well, you go perpendicular as best you can, and you can drill the hole straight in the wall, right? Well, an axle doesn't do that because it has to drill the hole or turn the wheel when you turn. So it'd be like you're going to drill a hole in the wall, and you're aimed the drill parallel with the wall. Well, how's that drill going to turn? That just doesn't happen. And that's where CV joints allow, because of their multiplicity of trunnions and balls and ball joints. You ever had one apart? They're quite ingenious how they're made. Now, I said all that to say that when a CV joint goes bad, William, and I've personally fixed many cars by doing this. I find a parking lot like the mall, and where there's no other cars parked around, turn the wheel lock to lock, and don't hold it hard against the lock because that overloads the power steering pump, but turn it all the way and then back off off 2 fingers, and now you've got it exercising the outer CV joint, and you let the car idle and let it go around in a circle forward, and then put it in reverse and go around the circle backwards. And what you're doing is you're working that CV, the outer joint, to its extremity. And when you do, you'll get a little fuff, 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 whenever it crosses over a bad track within the CV axle. Now, all that I said has to do with the outer one. On the inner one doesn't move much. It's a CV joint in as much as it does travel in and out, because the axle moves up and down, so the distance, there has to be some slip there within, secured slip. When I say that, motion, internal motion. But because it's attached to the transmission and because it is the driver of the axle, you will get vibrations from an inner CV joint that exactly matches your description. So it would be my recommendation to replace. Now, the question is, which one is it? And the bottom line, how many miles you got on the vehicle?
About 150, 160.
Okay. I recommend, do you have a shop that you frequent?
I'm sorry, is there a shop I frequent? Yes.
Okay, then talk to that shop owner and get a price to replace a CV axle assembly. And a new one is the way to go. O'Reilly Auto Parts, you can buy those new axles. You don't fix those things anymore. When they first came out, we used to try to seal them and what have you. We don't do that any longer. We replace them with brand new parts. So you can go to O'Reilly Auto Parts, or you can request, that we use, like Master Pro is one of the brands that, and I'm not sure that Master Pro makes the CV joint, but that's one of the brands that comes to my mind. Doesn't matter, because your shop owner will know. But get a price from your shop owner to replace both CV axles, and then
both sides.
Yeah, because you got 150,000 miles. So what? So
that's fine.
See, I mean, it really. So that's going to solve your problem.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Glad you called.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you. Yeah, almost forgot.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay.
So 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. This is a brand new show. First show, number one. Gosh, let's see. Let's multiply the shows. 28 years on the air. 2 hours. Probably average, 10 calls an hour. That's 20 calls, over the lifetime, plus television for quite a few years, plus a Thursday show. One of these days I'll do the math, and who cares? But it's interesting to see how many questions that I've answered. And we've had a lot of you folks that have been really gracious to me and throughout my radio career here. And it's no longer only radio now. It's a network, a global cast. And recently we had some of our Watch Bobby Live folks to say Happy New Year and those sorts of things, like Captain Jim, in Las Vegas, who is a really neat guy. And one of these days, Captain, I promise that I'm going to take you up on your invitation to be a judge for the International Chili Contest that occurs every year. The challenge is they're usually on the West Coast, and that's a long way for me to travel. So one of these days you'll have one of your competitions a little closer to the East Coast, maybe even in Florida. Wow, now how about that? So folks, I asked Captain Jim one day, I said, well, I got this nice badge that says International Chili Cook-Off Judge, and which I'm not, but I got the badge, and I got the invitation. I get it every year. I said, well, really, I know what good chili tastes like to me, but I can't say that I know enough about chili that I could be a judge. He said, well, we understand that. So we have classes before the Saturday. And this is really interesting, Fabio. They have the Saturday, Sunday event, but they have classes that help you to judge the chili. And I think that's really, and you say, well, gosh, how do you judge like that? Well, I guess when you think about it, think about mashed potatoes versus whipped potatoes. I mean, personally, I like the whipped potato. I mean, it's just creamy. I love the creaminess. And so I presume that that's the same thing. But anyway, I didn't mean to get into food, except that food sure is great, and I love it, and I love to go out to eat. And so 888 Car Clinic, if you'd like to give me a shout, and we'll talk about cars and what they eat besides gasoline. what makes a car tick? A lot of people. So this week I bought a product. I've got it right here in my hand. It's a performance chip. I won't give a brand name because I haven't used it yet. But I bought it because it's for all cars, and it claims to add 35 horsepower. And I was interested in the horsepower. I don't care about the gas mileage and what have you. My car gets excellent gas mileage, It gets 26.7 at 79 miles per hour. I'm happy with that. So I'm not looking for gas mileage. But I am looking for another 30 horsepower. I think that's really interesting. So I bought this unit, and unfortunately, it's had every car listed. Well, that doesn't make sense to me. So I reached out to their support, and I got a reply from a gentleman named Bill. And I share this with you folks, and I won't share the brand name. I have not installed it because the instructions are incorrect or incomplete. And so it says, you know, if you need help, reach out to your mechanic. Well, duh. Okay. And even reaching out to your mechanic, which would me being reaching out to me, a technician, and my group of technicians, this unit still it's not clear as to whether it attaches to the 2 wires that it says, and you remove those 2 wires, or you leave those 2 wires in position, and it's all about the air temperature sensor. And it's about changing the value of the air temperature sensor. Get this, and this was the explanation that I got. It says what this unit does, it changes the value of the air temperature sensor, and it fools the engine into thinking that the air is cooler, and it's like supercharging your engine. Well, folks, you can fool your engine, but you don't get increased volume of air in your engine with any kind of a device. The only way you can increase the volume of air in an engine is to blow it in with a turbocharger or a supercharger. So that statement alone is incomplete and inaccurate. I challenged it. And then I went on to American Express where I bought this, and I looked at the mailing address of the American Express payee, and I looked at the online address of this packet that I'm holding, and they're not one and the same. So I suspect I have been spammed. But I will tell you this, if I have been, I will share it with you on future broadcasts. And the good news is I'm not going to pay for this, but I can't even send it back because I've reached out 5 times now, and I've gotten 1 initial reply. And then when I went back to ask for more information, like I was instructed to, like wiring diagram, schematic, I've heard nothing from this company. So I'll share with you a little more about that a little bit later, or not. If I get a call and I get help, then I'll share it with you on a positive side. If I don't, I'll warn you not to buy this product. The Massachusetts Right to Repair Coalition has gathered the amount of necessary signatures for a 2020 ballot initiative. What is that? The right to repair, and I'll do the short version, was originally created in Massachusetts that gives independent shops and owners of vehicles the right to all information required to repair and or maintain the new car they buy, or any car that's on the road that comes under this law, and that's all cars. And so this is really important because now there is time for an update of an enhancement of the 2013 Motor Vehicle Right to Repair Law. The key provision of the initiative is, commencing in model year 2022 and thereafter, a manufacturer of motor vehicles sold, including heavy-duty vehicles, having a gross vehicle weight of, say, 14,000 pounds, that utilizes a telematics system shall be required to equip such vehicle with an interoperable, standardized, and open access platform across all the manufacturers, makes, and models. And think about it. In 1996, the OBD2 port was invented or created or designed and installed on all cars from 96. And that allows you as an owner or me as a shop owner to access the computer for what? For information to that complex vehicle to help us to repair that vehicle. Well, as cars get newer and newer and become self-connected to the manufacturers are able to drive those cars, literally update those cars, but drive the owners back to the selling dealers. So understand this, that's okay, except that information has to be available to you and to me as well. And that's what this is Right to Repair Act. I'll share a little more about that with you on next week's program. I think it's important because information that needs to be available to everyone with regard to your automobile service, you should have availability to, so that you won't be dictated as to where you have to take your car for repairs. It's that simple. Maybe it's not that simple, but that's the premise of it, and that's the reason for it. I really enjoy coming to you, and I appreciate your confidence in me here on Bobby Likis Car Clinic every Saturday. You've heard me mention Omnicraft Auto Parts. Omnicraft is owned and a trademark of Ford Motor Company. So if you don't drive a Ford or a Lincoln, why do you need Ford parts? They're Omnicraft, they're Omni parts. They're parts for all non-Ford or Lincoln motor vehicles, brakes, brake pads, axles, CV joints. Where can you go? OmnicraftAutoparts.com. Till next week, I'm Bobby Likis. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Berryman's B12 Chem Tool features HEST, or High Energy Solvent Technology. Using a combination of stronger solvents, HEST technology cleans injectors, carburetors, and combustion chambers. But don't take our word for it. According to Stephen B., Berryman products have been part of my automotive care and maintenance program since 1996. From additives and cleaners to sealants, Berryman products are a must for any gearhead and automotive enthusiast. Learn more about Berryman B12 Chem Tool and other great products at BerrymanProducts.com.
O'Reilly. This is Jesse's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
As a nurse, not making it to work was not an option. But driving through the snow with my wiper blades struggling, I just didn't feel safe. So I pulled into O'Reilly Auto Parts, and before I knew it, an employee was offering to install the wiper blades on my car. I got to stay out of the snow for a moment, and I still made it to work on time.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning